From the Alex Trebek stage at Sony Picture Studios, this is Inside Jeopardy!
Hello and welcome back to Inside Jeopardy, your exclusive and official podcast destination for all things happening in the world of Jeopardy! I'm Sarah Foss. I'm joined today by Buzzy Cohen.
It is the dog days of summer here, huh?
Woo!
What a way to beat the heat. Come on inside and watch some Jeopardy, or get into your car and crank up that AC.
Inside Jeopardy.
Listen to some Inside Jeopardy, not outside sweaty Jeopardy.
No.
Inside cool air-conditioned Jeopardy.
It's almost August. I
Yeah.
mean, where has summer gone?
Now, by the way, I mentioned the dog days of summer. Do you know why they are called the dog days of summer?
I do not.
It is because the constellation Sirius would be in the sky for this,
Oh. I always just pictured a really hot dog
Yeah.
with their tongue out. You know,
Yeah,
it's kinda
that's what everyone does. But it's because of the constellation Sirius. There you go.
Learn something new here on the pod with Buzz Cohen. Well, it's happened, Buzzy. Season 39. It's in the books.
Yep.
We've got 6 weeks of fabulous reruns, Second Chance, TOC, and a few curated special episodes to wrap up that last week of the 6 weeks of reruns. And right after that is the start of Season 40. And we know a lot of people have a lot of questions about Season 40 right now, and a lot of people are talking about Jeopardy right now. So next week, executive producer Michael Davies and I will be here on the pod to talk about it all, a place where, for the past year, you've come for that information. In fact, it was exactly 1 year ago this week that this little podcast, Inside Jeopardy, launched. It was right at the start of the reruns. We were heading into season 39. And one of the things that was so anticipated was the return of those season 38 standouts when they came back for TOC, and obviously they were back for Masters as well.
Yep.
And later in the show, we're going to be talking with our Jeopardy Masters finalist, Matt Amodio.
Cannot wait to talk to him.
Yeah.
But we've got a lot of shows to talk about, huh?
Cue those beep boops. We started out the week with one-day champion Taylor Claggett going up against Simona Fina and Ian Fouts. Taylor got off to a good start, but really caught fire in Double Jeopardy, ending the round with $17,500 and a runaway.
25 correct responses in that game, and the only one to get final. Very, very impressive. A lot of people might be interested by Taylor's two $100 daily double wagers. I think when you are in control of the game this much, sometimes it makes sense. One of the pieces of advice I got from Alex Jacob, one of the things that we've seen people like Alan Lynn do, like James Holzhauer, is you either bet a big amount on a daily double or you bet really small. Now, I think Taylor could have bet $5 and it was essentially the same as a $100 bet. But, if you're not feeling strong in the categories, or you just don't want to put yourself at risk. I know we had previously been quoted as saying, we want you to bet bigger. But we want
being you.
Me. I know I've been on record as saying bet bigger, but I think what I mean is most of the time strategically that's the right move. Taylor found this situation where it's not the right move, but I think, Taylor clearly knows what he is doing on this stage.
Yes, and as you mentioned, it proved to be a good decision because he did get both of them incorrect, only losing $100 each time. Now, those categories where the daily doubles came up, musical works and my would-be VP, these were two very difficult categories for all three of our players. 9 out of the 10 clues in those categories, triple stumpers.
Oof, that's rough.
Yes, but it was Ian's birthday on that tape day. So during the break, Jimmy Maguire led the audience in a very arousing rendition of Happy Birthday. It's not every day you can compete on Jeopardy and have a studio audience sing to you.
And while it may not have been the outcome that Ian wanted, he did get a $2,000 consolation prize for his birthday, which if I got a random $2,000 on my birthday, I wouldn't sneeze at it.
Winning. That's winning on your birthday.
Yeah.
Well, on Tuesday, our winner, Taylor, returned to face Andrew Knowles and Jolie Sisson. Taylor finished the Jeopardy round in the lead, while Julie trailed behind in third place. Julie finds the daily double in Double Jeopardy. She wagers $4,000, but gets it wrong, dropping her down to just $200. Don't fear, though. She works her way back into contention, ending the round in second place behind Taylor. Taylor couldn't come up with the correct response in final, but Julie does, earning a very exciting come-from-behind win, proving you never know when you're still in this.
This is a very interesting game statistically. If you look at buzzer percentage, Andrew certainly in control in Double Jeopardy and right behind Taylor in the Jeopardy round, has the most correct responses as well with 17, but with 8 incorrect responses, that's really hurting him. Mm-hmm. And after such an impressive 25 correct responses in the previous game, this time Taylor only with 14 and Julie only with 14. This just feels like a game where nobody's really rocking, but very, very well played and a great come-from-behind win for Julie.
Well, we did learn that Andrew has a really long tongue. He's able to lick his elbow. And then Ken mentioned that he can lick his own nose. And then at the break, Ken and Andrew took a picture with their tongues touching their noses. I can do this. Can you touch your tongue to your nose?
I cannot touch my tongue
Watch.
to my nose. Oh, you got it.
I got it right.
I was actually born with a tongue tie, so I guess it's not surprising that I can't touch my tongue to my nose.
I also can make a very long tongue taco.
Whoa. We're near the end of this season of Jeopardy and the season of Inside Jeopardy when we're comparing tongue tacos.
It's happened. But Andrew and Ken do have a nice picture because can you just picture it? Like you have a picture just standing with Alex. Andrew has a picture with he and Ken touching their
That is really sweet. And I had never heard that thing about touching your tongue to your elbow being hard, and I just tried it again. We're at the end of the season.
Not
here,
even
guys.
close, guys.
Not even close. Let's move on to Wednesday's game, shall we?
Let's do it. Our new champion, Julie, returning to compete against Lucas Partridge and Alex Muller. Lucas and Alex battled back and forth with the lead changing hands multiple times. Alex finds the first Daily Double in Double Jeopardy, bets big to try to catch Lucas, but she responds incorrectly, allowing Lucas to cruise into final with a runaway win.
I think Lucas must have taken note of Taylor's $100 Daily Double strategy, did the same thing, and it, kind of with the same outcome. But the runaway here, really strong, 22 correct responses in this game for Lucas. Lucas with 92% correct, really strong. Those are the kinds of stats that put together a runaway game, so congrats. I also want to point out that in his interview, as you know, my favorite part of the show, Lucas made 50 drinks in 50 days for each state during the pandemic. Doesn't sound like he made one for each state. It sounds like he made one for himself for 50 days.
And he went over a few of them in the commercial break, and they sounded delicious. So I'm just saying, I might need to get those recipes. Julie leaves us as a one-day champion, but she actually brought with her, the previous game she had a Scrabble tile for her grandmother who watched the game with her for so many years and proved to be good luck. And then she said, well, it could have been this. And she pulls out a Ken Jennings equivalent to like a trading card, a baseball card. So when she was getting ready to leave, she said, Ken, would you sign my baseball card? And he's like, sure. And he goes, this is going to go up on eBay. And she said, oh, no, I would never part with it. And he signed it to a fellow Jeopardy champion.
That is really
and he
sweet.
said, you know what, Julie, we're in a pretty elite club.
That is really sweet. Well done. What a mensch, that Ken Jennings.
I love that Ken Jennings.
Yep.
Well, on Thursday, Lucas returning to face Alicia Schaefer and Zach Razavi. Lucas and Alicia were neck and neck most of the game, but Lucas was able to pull ahead slightly by the end of Double Jeopardy. All three players came up with the correct response, but Lucas is the one who earns his second win.
Yep, I want to give a shout out as well to Alicia, who really played a good game. Even after missing that first Daily Double, found the second one. Could have made a bigger wager, but I understand being a little gun shy after that, but really played with a lot of heart.
In the post-game chat, Ken couldn't help. I mean, if you look at Lucas, he's wearing a jacket that does match his hair. Ken asked if he dyed his hair to match the jacket or if he chose the jacket to match his hair. Lucas says, I think the hair came before the jacket, but it really is pretty impressive, the match.
Yeah, I feel like that reminds me of Rowan Ward, I think, did some hair.
Yeah, a little turquoise with a turquoise shirt. Yes.
Yep.
Worked well for Rowan. Working well so far for Lucas.
Yep.
Closing out the week he is, going up for a third win against Sharon Bishop and Monica Chavez. It was a great game for our season 39 finale. Sharon proved to be a formidable challenger. She's neck and neck with Lucas in the Jeopardy round. Really turned it on in Double Jeopardy, building a strong but not insurmountable lead going into our final of the season. Both Sharon and Monica couldn't come up with the correct response. What is gonzo? So Lucas is able to pull off an exciting come-from-behind win, breaking our long streak of 1- and 2-day winners. he ends the season as a 3-game champion.
Incredible. And all 3 games with a pretty high money total in the 20,000s, which I think is pretty good. And I do want to point out that after we had that week of all runaway games, which had fairly low totals, which sometimes happens, everyone thinks of a runaway as being a really high score, but sometimes when it material and blah, blah, blah.
You don't have to wager with the runaway,
exactly.
So sometimes it's actually a lower total.
This shows sometimes that when you have these tighter games, you end up with higher finishing scores. So Lucas, with a little extra cash to throw around on that summer trip, has to cool his heels a little bit, but he will be back as a returning champion.
Yes. So it's interesting because obviously we're going to have Champions Wild Card, which Lucas would qualify, but not this season because Lucas is still playing. So he will be making his appearance after our postseason, after all of that fun. So Lucas is going to have some time to relax, to study up. He could have one of the longest breaks we've ever had. Ken had to ask, you've got the entire summer to prepare. We're going to see a whole new Lucas Partridge when you come back. And Lucas joked, well, we'll see what the hair color is going to be. So that's fun too.
Yeah, that reminds me of, I think, Austin Rogers.
Whole new look when he came back.
Whole new look came back, right?
Yes.
Very well groomed after being he
was coiffed.
Yeah, he was coiffed.
Austin Rogers was coiffed and putting together his highlights. It was just like this to this overnight, but literally it was not overnight because we had, of course, the summer. All right, let's take a look at our season 39 wrap-up stats.
Hit me with it.
In syndication, with 46 weeks of original programming in Jeopardy! We saw a total of 445 contestants.
Jiminy Christmas.
381 contestants during the regular season, 64 contestants across our Second Chance, Tournament of Champions, and the High School Reunion Tournament. And according to our accounting department, Season 39's total prize money was an impressive, wait for it, $5,930,842. Now, that does include all the tournaments. It includes all the second and third place prizing on the regular shows, but that's nearly $6 million. People, are you hearing this? Try out for Jeopardy!
We've said it before. We will say it again.
Yes, we've made 5 millionaires so far. You could be the next one. It's an anytime test. It takes less than 15 minutes.
Changed my life.
It changed your life. There you have it. That wraps up our final game highlights for season 39. And now it's time to welcome Jeopardy! Masters finalist Matt Amodio to the show. Welcome back, Matt.
Good to be here. Excited.
Well, we haven't seen you in a few months, ever since that little thing we call Masters. How has life been treating you?
It's been very good. Yeah, I like how not being on the Jeopardy set for a few months constitutes a unexpected, unusual break.
Yeah. It's been a busy couple years for you, huh?
Yeah.
It has.
You were part of both season 37 and season 38, of course. And I don't want anyone to forget that you are the only one in history to have played Jeopardy with 7 different hosts. I don't think we ever thought that would even be a statement that anyone could accomplish.
No.
But you did it.
Yeah, and, it's a weird experience. So most people, if they get so lucky as to be on the Jeopardy stage at any point, will play one game with one host, and it will be a great experience. Everybody has a good time, I hope. But I had a very fortunate experience where it just kept going. And Jeopardy is still a part of my life even to this day. And so I'm so fortunate for that.
You had said in your initial run that you had really wanted to have Ken Jennings as a host. And, you had 6 hosts at that point, but it had not yet been Ken. Now, TOC and Masters, you've now been hosted by Ken twice. Now, you haven't come out a champion in either of those. Are you still thinking you like Ken Jennings as a host?
I don't know. My enthusiasm for having Ken as a host was initially from ignorance. I didn't know what a negative experience it was going to be. No, I'm just kidding. He is a tremendous host. We already knew he was a tremendous trivia player and a tremendous person, but we have learned in the last few years that he is also an awesome host. It's a different skill from playing the game, but how he also is talented at that, I have no idea.
Well, you get to share a few things with Ken. Obviously, you share the stage with him for TOC and Masters, but also some pretty impressive leaderboard of legends stats. You're one of 5 millionaires thanks to Jeopardy! Did you ever think that would be something you could say?
No. So I'm a stats guy. I engaged with baseball growing up with it. I engaged with Jeopardy all the time. And so when I was watching my own stats, I would track Coriat, average Coriat, the best Coriats, all this stuff. And I feel really good. I never imagined that my name would be right up there next to Ken's in some of these leaderboards. But then when you introduce this kind of topic and mention the millionaire part, I say, oh, right. Yeah, that's also something that happened.
And in terms of the stats, you actually beat Ken on daily average. You know, in your mere 38 game run, you were averaging $39,963 per victory, less than James Holzhauer, but more than Ken Jennings.
Yes. I feel like Ken was always betting conservatively in final, even when he had room not to. And I can understand the impulse to do that because I think temperamentally I'm more of a Ken than a James. But, the math just works out. If you know 50.1% of them, you should just bet everything you can. And it worked out well for me, thankfully.
Now, when you came back for TOC, you were seeded, which is something we had never done before in a TOC. But basically, we had you, we had Amy Schneider, we had Mateo Roach. We had this level of champion we had never had before in a TOC. Obviously, it didn't work out so well for you in the TOC. Any given day, anyone can win Jeopardy. We know that. But what's your thought on the seeding now that you've, had that experience, would you say?
Yeah, I think if all things are being equal, the seeding made me $5,000 because if I had played Sam Buttrey in the quarterfinal, then I think it would have ended up the same way. Yeah, no, I don't think that the bye made any significant difference to me. I did come in cold while I was playing people who were a little more warmed up, but really I need more than one game to fully break myself in. You get a rhythm maybe after 5, 10 in the Masters. Like you could really develop a rhythm there, but one extra game practice I don't think negatively impacts anyone.
So I gotta ask, we've mentioned that you're in the rare air of the Jeopardy Millionaire Club, but when you were on the show, you were in your PhD program. Now you're doing postgraduate work. Do your fellow postgrads look at you a little differently as the sort of probably, I'm going to guess, the lone millionaire in the crew?
I'm thinking that is true.
When the tab comes at the bar and we're deciding whose card goes in, it's usually looking right at me. Yeah. And then, when it comes time to Venmo afterwards, I don't always get everyone. And I feel a little bad trying to hound them for it. So yeah, there's
Got
that.
it.
Do you just love school? I mean, between the University of Ohio, we've got University of Wisconsin, you've got Yale. Like, it seems like you are just someone who loves learning on a level that is pretty rare.
Yeah, so I do love learning. I'm not sure I love school so much as I don't love non-school.
Yes.
Yeah, so I like learning, and if I can find any environment that encourages that and really supports it, that's where I want to be.
What is the day-to-day life like for you in summer 2023?
My day-to-day life is basically unchanged from pre-Jeopardy. I do say when I'm walking down the street, I do run into people who flag me down and say, hey, Matt, could I get a selfie? Things like that. So that is new. But other than that, my work life is just the same as it was before. I do AI research, and that involves me coding and being on my computer a lot. I enjoy the flexibility that academia gives me, where I can usually work at home from the morning and then come into the office a little bit later and do my work there. And so it's a pretty enjoyable time. I really like my work. I wouldn't want to give it up.
Well, good thing, because Jeopardy is great and all,
Yeah.
but you can't really quit your day job unless you're Ken Jennings. I guess he did quit his day job.
He did, yeah, eventually.
Yeah.
He did that.
So I don't want to bring up any painful memories. However, your 38-game winning streak did end eventually against Jonathan Fisher and Jessica Stevens, both of whom ended up in the Tournament of Champions. What was that reunion like? Well, let's go first to the game, because I think a lot of people consider that one of the best played Jeopardy games.
It certainly won a Jeopardy Honors
It won a
award
Jeopardy Honors
as
Award.
best game of the season.
I don't know if we ever really got a breakdown from you of what that was like coming in as a 38-day champ and then playing such an incredible game.
Yeah, so I wasn't warned that we were going to talk about this, so I'm going to have to bring it up to remind me of what happened. No, I'm just
sorry.
kidding. No, I'm just kidding. I remember every moment of it in my head still to this day. Yeah, I mean it was a very well played game of Jeopardy by two of the three contestants. I feel like I was not on my mark there, and it was a Monday game after a 2-week taping break, which for most of Jeopardy's history is a normal break. But for my run, things were a little bit more compressed time-wise in terms of tape days. So it was one of the bigger breaks for me. And I always knew that I'm not a morning person, and it does take me a little bit of caffeine and waking up to get on my buzzer rhythm. So I thought that Monday air day was going to be my Achilles heel, and lo and behold, it was.
And this was a Monday, the first time you had Mayim Bialik as a host. At that point, your 6th host. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that's correct. So that's another variable in it. And I remember it was just a lot of pressing the buzzer and not seeing my lights light up, and then a few very poorly timed incorrect responses, including on a comic book character. I saw a picture of Venom, and of course I know who Venom was, but just in the moment, people always underestimate the ability of your mind to just go blank on a name. But my dad is a huge comic book lover, and we read a lot of the Spider-Man stories when I was a kid, and we watched the Venom movie together. And so he was yelling at me in a facetious, but I think also somewhat serious tone after that.
And it was your dad who really encouraged you to audition for Jeopardy! Is that right?
Yeah, he really loves Jeopardy! And he's kind of been teaching me a lot throughout the process. And I never really thought that I would get on the show. I never thought I would do well on the show. So I never auditioned for the show, but he was just nagging me. And eventually I did it to appease him. And thank you, Dad. You were right.
So I just want to say, Matt has played with 7 different hosts. The 2 that he probably has the losingest track record with are Mayim Bialik and Ken Jennings. Lo and behold, they become the 2 permanent hosts. How does that make you feel, Matt? They couldn't have picked David Faber for you.
Yeah, exactly. What's Joe Buck doing these days? Yeah, no, it was great. The guest hosting time was really a special time, and I'm flattered and honored that I was able to be a part of it, because you got to see so many people come in who clearly revered the show and the institution that it is, and to see that experience where instead of just 3 people kind of in awe on the stage, you have 4 people in awe on the stage. Was a special moment for the show.
Yeah, you had Robin Roberts as one of your guest hosts as well. And I remember Robin came on the stage and she said, "I feel Alex here." She had met Alex, of course. And she said, "I totally feel Alex's presence here." And I know that meant so much to all of us, because we certainly feel his presence still today. One thing about Matt's last day before TOC, it was also Michael Davies' first day as EP, first tape day. He comes in, he hears about this hot shot Matt Amodio. We got 38 wins. Who knows where it's going to end? This is going to be great. He sits down in the seat, and 30 minutes later, what has happened? But certainly even he will say what a game to come in on, because it was such a competition, and obviously a season that continued. You really set the tone, because then came Amy and Matea and that season of Super Champions. You really paved the way for them all.
And Jonathan himself.
Jonathan.
Of course.
And Jonathan, if you get 11, you're a super champion. I did not mean to sell Jonathan short. Double digits, man.
Ryan Long, a bunch of great champs.
It was
in 38.
such a season. And then we move on and we do the TOC. And as we said, you leave us in the TOC, not in the finals. When you left the stage that day, were you pretty confident that was not your last time on the Alex Trebek stage?
I was moderately confident, but what I had in mind was maybe a reunion show 10 years down the line, something of that kind. And I did not expect it to be such a quick turnaround. And that was awesome. I was glad for that. It was a pleasant surprise. And now it'll just be one more year.
So when Masters was first announced and it was 6 players, a lot of people were a bit critical of the playing format. They thought there should be more players. They thought this is just a TOC remake with James Holzhauer thrown in. We had a lot of critics, a lot of skeptics. And then, at least our impression is, when the 6 of you showed up, and boy, did you all show up, what a performance you put on, and how we really did have the 6 current best, which is what Masters is all about, on the stage in that moment. What did it feel like to be, one, kind of promoted to that high list from the beginning, that we're saying you're one of the 6 best, and then to have to know you have to go on the stage and you have to prove that we chose the best for this competition, the first ever, and we needed it to be a success because we wanted Masters to be an annual event.
Yeah. And so, first off, I can understand where the people who were a little disappointed at the choice of the 6 participants, where they're coming from, especially because Jeopardy historically has used these tournaments to say, oh, let's take a smattering of people from throughout the history that you may have liked, and we'll give them one more hurrah through the experience. And so it's like a cameo almost for all these people you remember from the past. But as a sporting fan, I can understand where the actual idea through this is that you want to set this like almost rule-based system that you have to instantiate with some group of 6. But then after that, it will be perpetuating in a way that gives it legitimacy as an institution and all that good stuff. So I was, first of all, as a fan, pretty interested in the format. But then also as a participant, very happy with the selection. I felt definitely a lot of pressure, especially because at that point, I think I had lost my previous 3 games of Jeopardy between my last regular season, exhibition
and the
match.
Exhibition game, and then the TOC semi.
And the TOC semi. And I know the exhibition match was a different thing, but still wasn't feeling overly good about my chances coming in. And then having to add James into the mix there definitely didn't help. So I felt a lot of pressure about that and was trying to lower my expectations. Coming in, I said, a top 3 finish would be really great. The idea that you could pick any 3 of these people and have me finish above them seems like a stretch, but I would like that. Then when I got into the finals, I said, second, first even, that would be even better. But you recalibrate your expectations as you move on. And then in the end, I got 3rd, and I was very happy with that.
So I do want to take my hat off to you as the person who showed, after Emma Boettcher, that James Holzhauer can be beat. How did that win feel?
I think that was my favorite moment on the Jeopardy stage for myself.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, James is a legend, and he's a legend for a reason. He was very inspiring to me when I was watching him before I was on the show, and he kind of showed me that there is this level of greatness that you can achieve, and you don't have to be Ken Jennings to do it, because if it's Ken Jennings, it's an exception, but if it's 2 people, now it's a pattern, and somebody else can do it. So he was really inspirational to me, and just to see him dominate over and over again. And his TOC was a bit closer, but he was still very in control. And so having him come in and dominate his first game of Masters said, okay, we're just going to be in for this experience again. And then that second game, and boy, that was thrilling. I think my heart rate is still a little bit elevated from the last few questions of Double Jeopardy of that game.
So you come out of the second game, you had this thrilling victory over James, and the quarterfinals kind of drudged on, but you really had to show up there, in the end to get into the semis.
It was a roller coaster. I didn't start off so well. I won the game against James. I then had a rough patch, and then I pulled one out at the end to win. Although I will say part of that is just the game sequencing, because it's a lot easier to win games that James Holzhauer isn't in. And some of that is a coincidence of when my games against James were in my quarterfinal stretch.
In the semifinals, once again, we go into show 9 and you have to win. It's a must-win game for you. Not only do you win, you do the biggest daily double of the semifinals, 13,200 points. You get a runaway game against Matea and Andrew, and you secure yourself a spot in the finals. That had to feel great.
Yeah, so it's amazing what just the different opponents can do to the buzzer timing, because it doesn't work in the straight mathematical transitive property thing of if so-and-so can outbuzz so-and-so. If person A can outbuzz person B and I can outbuzz person A, then I can outbuzz person B. And no, it doesn't work that way. And so I was having just the Dickens of the time trying to buzz in on any game when James was there. But then when James was gone, I just found my buzzer rhythm working a whole lot better. And so I played what I think was a very good game against Andrew and Matea. I was very proud of that. I was kind of assuming that would be the last time I was on the stage of this tournament. And then about halfway through, I looked at the scoreboard and I said, oh, wow, this is going well so far.
And you would live another day, and you would live more days in the finals. Talk about the level of that material. What was it like to be against James and Matea with $500,000 on the line?
Yeah, so I'd have to go back and look at it, but I think there were double-digit triple stumpers in both of the games of the finals, and that was a surreal experience to be on the stage with two other talented players like that, and to just have so many stand and stares. And that, I think, is just, there's no better way of describing how difficult the material is than to say it that way. But it required calibration from myself, because usually I am used to the regular season Jeopardy where I feel like I know almost all of the questions. And so even if the parsing the question isn't coming to me at the moment, I ring in anyway and figure that in the 6 seconds afterwards, I will figure out what it's looking for and be able to respond correctly. When it comes to this level of difficulty, I can't do that anymore, because it may be a composer that I've never heard of in my life, as opposed to just needing to think about it for a second or two. It got me in trouble as well, because sometimes when you get a daily double wrong and you end up at 0, you need to make up ground quickly. And in that case, you have to take stabs on things that maybe you wouldn't want to ring in on in a close game. And again, in normal material, maybe my best guess, even if I only give it a 40% chance of being right, my best guess might actually be the correct answer. But in this case, I was ringing in, I would say, some bad guess. And then Ken would tell me that, no, the answer is blah. And I had never heard of blah in my life.
But now you have, and you will never forget blah.
You'll never forget.
I'll be ready for it next year.
Or dope sick.
Dope sick.
That's right.
That one still hurts, dope sick.
Yes.
That big daily double. Well, unlike most times when you lose on the Alex Trebek stage, you know you are coming back. Once again, Masters, an annual event. ABC has already said, tell these players they'll be back, because they were so happy even in the early days of Masters. So what does one do knowing that they're coming back, knowing the level of competition? You know at least half of the people that are going to be in that field. And, you do have your day job, but how do you kind of regulate needing to have a life, but also needing to prepare to come back?
Yeah, so I've been working on an elaborate distraction mechanism for the Holzhauer household. They'll be dealing with stray pizza orders showing up at their door, and so hopefully that will help my chances next year. But no, so I do have a lot going on in my life. My work takes a lot of time, and then I have family and personal life afterwards. And so at least for the near term, I am taking a much needed break from trivia, and I figure sometime later in the year, maybe next year, I will have to ramp that back up. But at this point, it's just my head's swimming a little bit.
Yeah, and I think it's important, to get that rest in so you feel refreshed, as opposed to just kind of like dragging yourself. One of the things Roger Bannister, when he ran that 4-minute mile, one of the big changes he did was a lot of rest. So I think, that could work out very well for you.
Absolutely. This is something coming from Buzzy, because Buzzy trains for everything like no one I've ever seen before. So if Buzzy's saying to rest, it means a lot.
I've got 2 quick questions for you, Matt. I know I don't want to take up too much of your time. 1, what's your lunch order on a Jeopardy tape day?
Very important.
Ooh, I love the Impossible Burger. So I'm a vegetarian, and I've never been a huge fan of like the black bean patties or the old style of veggie burger. And so I usually just get something else. But now that Impossible Burgers are available around, I always jump to that.
Do we have those at the Sony cafeteria?
Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm learning things on this interview.
And they're good.
There you go. My second question, we've talked about, you've got incredible stats in your initial run, money earned, correct responses, daily doubles, and continued, into Masters. Is there one particular statistic, as somebody who loves stats and sabermetrics and all that stuff, is there a statistic of your own that you are especially keen on or proud of that might not be the most obvious one to an average viewer?
Absolutely. So this is one that I can just pull right off the top of my head, that I know that if you rank players by their regular season performance and then their average choreo, how many questions they get right, but weighted by the dollar value of those questions, I know that at the top of that list sits James Holzhauer. But I know that second on that list sits one Matt Amodio, and you have to go all the way down to third to find Ken Jennings. So,
wow. Yet
so
another
yeah,
place
you
where
got to
you
get to
beat
James.
Ken
You got to get
Jennings.
through Matt.
Yes.
Well, we've talked a lot about competition, but I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the camaraderie between you and your fellow Masters contestants. I think one of my favorite moments throughout Masters was when you talked about your friendship with Sam Buttrey, despite, being competitors. And obviously the six of you went through a lot in these tapings. We had unforeseen delays. We had a birth of a baby. Your little Masters family went through a lot. And I just would love for you to talk about that relationship and how it has been fostered through this unique Jeopardy club that you six are a part of.
Yeah, it's really a special experience. So I know that most people who come in to the Jeopardy tape day are with 10 to 12 other people, and they can form some friendships and relationships there. I found that, so I've actually been pleased that people have reached out to me from my original run and said like, oh, you were so nice in the studio and on the tape day, because I felt like I was very reserved and I was laser focused on my task at hand of keeping my streak going. And so I feel like that I had a lot of stress on me in that moment and was not able to really develop as strong of a relationship with people as I would otherwise want to. In the Masters, it's such a weird experience knowing that we're trying to win, but we're going to be stuck together for a while, no matter what. And so we've just had a lot of opportunity to make small talk and then go out to dinner together beforehand. And then we've been through a lot, which encouraged us or put us together at these other times with ups and downs. So it's just really been a great opportunity to get to know them as people beyond getting to know them as competitors.
And I think most of America is jealous that you call Sam Buttrey one of your best friends.
Yeah, so Sam is just a great guy. I mean, all five of my fellow Masters are great people, but I think that I have just a very similar personality to Sam. We riff off of each other when we're together. He is, as you know, very into wordplay with his crossword writing and everything. And so I am a big fan of it myself, and we can just amuse each other for hours, or at least he amuses me. I have no idea how amused he is by my comments. And we get together still that we're planning to meet up just next week, actually. So the friendship lives on, the bromance lives on.
That makes me very happy. I often say we don't get to choose who our Jeopardy ambassadors are, but we have been so fortunate, and you are certainly one of the Jeopardy greats, but also just a great ambassador, a great human for our show. Thank you so much for taking some time. People were dying to know what Matt Amodio, the Amodio Rodeo, what was up with him. Thank you for joining us. And it's not goodbye. It's just so long for now, because we're going to see you back in Masters.
That's right. Thank you very much for having me. This was a lot of fun, and I can't wait till next time.
I know I say it every week, but I just love catching up with these Masters again. They've had a little time from the tournament. What a great group of people. I mean, I think Jeopardy choosing your friend group is, pretty good way to make sure you've got some pretty special people around. That brings us to the end of today's show. We'll be back next week with our special interview with Jeopardy Master finalist, the one, the only, Mattea Roach.
I cannot wait. And as a reminder, executive producer Michael Davies will be with us on the pod to discuss plans for season 40. And as always, make sure to subscribe to the podcast, rate us, leave us a comment, share across social, and follow us at Jeopardy on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on TikTok. And send us your questions and comments to InsideJeopardyPodcast@gmail.com. We'll see you next week.
Hey, Ken, what's that thing the kids say?
You mean smash the like, subscribe, and bell button so you'll be the first to know when we upload more great videos?
Yeah, that's it. Do that.